In May 2017, Ringling Brothers' Barnum & Bailey's Circus gave its final performance. In order to preserve this rich American tradition, the Financial Accounting Standards Board decided to acquire the circus and use it to help promote its new standards. That would explain a lot about some of these new standards.
Welcome to an inside look at There's a New Circus in Town. The FASB decided that the theme for the first performance after their acquisition of the circus would be the new revenue recognition standard. Prepare to be amazed as the circus proudly showcases the 5 steps of revenue recognition. Witness the identification of the contract. Thrill to the identification of the separate contract performance obligations. Hold your breath as they determine the transaction price. Laugh out loud as they allocate the price. And lastly, be mesmerized as they recognize revenue as the obligations are satisfied. Sounds simple and fun, right? But it's in the details where things get complicated. I spent time with some of the performers to learn about the complexities of the standard, as well as this big transition for the circus. You've been the ringmaster for 15 years, correct?
That's right, and I'm glad to see the FASB step up to preserve the character of this great tradition. They've even agreed to keep the sideshow.
Step right up and witness the raw strength and power of the strong man, able to lift all of the SEC guidance. Beware the charms of the snake woman. 2 minutes alone with her and you may find yourself loving the new lease standard. Be prepared for the horror of the footnote boy, the only human being alive known to enjoy voluminous disclosures.
But you've seen a lot of changes over the years as well.
Yes, but none of it compares to what we're seeing with the new revenue recognition standard. Take, for example, contract modifications.
Those could create a separate contract in some cases, right?
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, prepare to be amazed as the contract is juggled to increase the obligations provided as well as an appropriate increase in price. Thrill to the suspense of wondering what it could be if it's not a separate contract. Is it a new contract, a modification, or some combination? Or will the original contract be terminated?
So, I understand you've been having some issues with identifying the separate contract performance obligations. So the problem is customer loyalty programs. Really? How so? Oh, so they would have to convey a material right to be considered a separate performance obligation. I get it. They can't be just clowning around. So, if the benefits under the program are available to others as well, then there's really no value and it would not be considered a separate performance obligation. I suppose you'll have to evaluate any other discounts or goods or services as well. What a headache. You've made quite a name for yourself with your progressive method of training wild beasts, haven't you?
That is true, but this new beast is proving very difficult to handle.
You're referring to determining the transaction price, right?
Yes, you see, the variable consideration can make this a very dangerous act.
You should only consider it if it will not be reversed, correct?
Correct. You need to consider all types of factors outside the entity's control, such as obsolescence, market volatility, limited predictive value, or even in some cases, the weather.
Of course, there would also be the general practice for concessions.
And that could lead to many possible amounts. One slight mistake and you could be torn to shreds.
I understand you've been doing this a very long time.
Yes, and I come from a long line of human cannonballs. Rest their souls.
What makes your act so much more dangerous for this new show?
The real danger here is the allocation of the price.
How so?
Well, consider something as seemingly harmless as a discount.
That would be allocated to all obligations proportionately, right?
Not necessarily. There could be evidence that the discount relates to a specific obligation. In that case, you have to see if all three criteria exist to allocate it to one obligation or to a group. They would have to sell the item regularly on its own. They would also have to sell a bundle at a discount by itself. And the contract discount would have to be the same as the standalone bundle.
I hear that trapeze has always been a family act, and you come from a large family, don't you?
Yes, my brother, sister, and I are all trained in the arts. It takes a lot of time to put together an act like ours.
Well, the theme for your act centers around recognizing revenue, as the obligations are satisfied, and time can factor into that as well.
That's right. While some obligations are satisfied at a point in time, others are satisfied over time, but you have to be very careful that you do it right.
You have to use a consistent and reasonable method, and you have to have information to do this. This can be very dangerous.
You can use inputs or outputs, but consistency is key here.
Oh!
One small mistake could spell disaster.
You must always be aware that certain inputs may not create a valid representation of progress toward completion, such as costs due to inefficiencies.
As you can see, this new pronouncement has created challenges not only for the accounting industry, but for the circus as well. But, as it has always been in the circus, teamwork is key. The show must go on. In exchange for funding the new circus, the performers have agreed to help out at the FASB headquarters as well.